circumstances under which India's constitution was drawn up. India was a huge and diverse country. People of India were emerging from the status of subjects to that of citizens. The country was born through a partition on the basis of religious differences. The British had left it to the rulers of the princely states to decide whether they wanted to merge with India or with Pakistan or remain independent. The merger of these princely states was a difficult and uncertain task. The path to constitution was difficult. However, there was consensus amongst the makers of the Indian constitution about what a democratic India should look like. Much of this consensus had evolved during the freedom struggle. Much before the Constituent Assembly met to deliberate on the Constitution, the 1928 draft of Constitution for India and 1931 resolution at the Karachi session of the Indian National Congress wanted inclusion of universal adult franchise, right to freedom and equality, and protecting the rights of minorities in the Constitution of Independent India. Elections were held in 1937 to provincial legislatures and ministries all over British India. This did not have universal adult franchise and was not fully democratic governments. But the experience gained by Indians in the working of the legislative institutions was very useful. Indian constitution adopted many institutional details and procedures from colonial laws. Years of thinking and deliberation on the framework of the constitution made our leaders confident to learn from constitutions of other countries and borrow ideas suited for our country. The Constituent Assembly. Who then were the makers of the Indian Constitution? You will find here a very brief sketch of some of the leaders who played an important role in making the Constitution. The drafting of the document, called the Constitution, was done by an assembly of elected representatives called the Constituent Assembly. The Indian Constituent Assembly had 299 members. The Assembly adopted the Constitution on 26 November 1949, but it came into effect on January 26, 1950. To mark this day, we celebrate January 26th as Republic Day every year. We accept the Constitution made by this Assembly more than 50 years ago because the Constitution expresses a broad consensus of its time. Several groups have questioned some provisions of the Constitution, but no large social group or political party has ever questioned the legitimacy of the Constitution itself. Constituent Assembly represented the people of India. The Constituent Assembly was not chosen directly by all the people of India as there was no adult franchise. It was elected by the members of the existing provincial legislatures. The Assembly represented members from different language groups, castes, classes, religions, and occupations. The systematic, open, and consensual working of the Constituent Assembly gives sanctity to the Constitution. After the basics were agreed upon, the drafting committee chaired by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar prepared a draft constitution for discussion. There were several rounds of discussion on the draft constitution. This has been recorded and preserved in 12 volumes of Constituent Assembly debates.